Hello. So I actually bit off more than I could chew. So I titled this session Defense and Healthcare and Education. Then we realized that we only have about 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip through the defense and corporate education parts of my speech. And then we are going to go into the healthcare aspect. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to play 2 quick videos showcasing some of the work that we are doing in defense and in corporate education. So starting with enterprise metaverses. So that is our transient metaverse solution. It's a web-based platform that moves away from persistence. Next one is a small video that we're going to show about, we are doing small factors or what we call lightweight simulations for military use in Singapore. For pretty much all of the Singapore Defense Forces. We are working with the Navy, we are working with the Army, we're working with the Guards, which are like the Marines here. So that's just a glimpse of what we do in defense and corporate education. We're a company that's been around for several years now, and we do a lot of work with the Singapore government. But today I'm very excited to talk about what we're doing with Sing Health, which is one of the largest clusters of hospitals in Singapore. And together with me on stage, I'd like to invite Dr. Oh Choon Chiat. He is the senior consultant dermatologist at Singapore General Hospital. Dr. Oh.
Thanks, Sid. Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us in this afternoon lunchtime. So the background to this project that we had, so it started when during COVID time, we have a lot of doctors who needed some training during COVID. But I remember there was lockdown during that period, so all our students and young doctors cannot go for training that we normally give through lectures and courses in life, in schools and in hospitals, in clinic. So we decided to pitch for a grant, so to work with university who needed us to find a partner, a game-based partner like Sid's company, to do sort of like gamification for newer ways to engage the young learners during COVID, where they were disengaged from learning, and to make it more interactive for them. So that gives us the background to this idea that we took a grant from InnoPlus, and we came up with this app called Skin Go Prime, because we focus on the skin conditions that they are not very familiar with. Go Prime because we want to prime their knowledge, and also GP for general practitioner, so that they can also bring this knowledge to the GP, which is the building block of the health practitioner in Singapore. Next slide, please. So we focus on skin primarily because I'm a skin doctor, and The skin is one of the most common consults that anyone sees in practice, be it yourself, your kids, your family members, your relatives. So someone has a skin issues, and everyone's very worried that because of aging population and our increasing climate changes in the world, a lot of people have new onset rashes and moles that they're very worried about. And particularly when they see a black spot, they're very worried whether this is skin cancer or not, and they don't know who to see. So if you look at the trend of the cancers in Singapore, it's actually going up. You can see that the blue, red, and gray bars are the different populations in Singapore. Chinese have an increasing trend of skin cancers, and the Malays and Indians as well. So there's a demand for conditions earlier so that they can treatment earlier.
So as we grow older, skin conditions become more common, and you have various different kinds of things that appear on your body, and you don't know what they are. And you go to your doctor, and often even the general practitioners may not know exactly what they are looking at. So I just wanted to do a small little exercise. You've got two things on the screen, right? So one is on the left and one is on the right, right? So how many people think that you should be scared about what's on your left? Right? Your left. Okay, your left will be that side. Your left, okay. And then how many people think about what you should be scared about what's on your right? Okay, well done. Actually, the one on the left is a benign condition. It looks very scary, whereas the one on the right is potentially malignant.
That's right. So these are the two most conditions that you see in elderly population. The bigger one actually is quite benign. It's called seborrheic keratosis, which is an oil gland spot that gets bigger with time and get more and more. Whereas the smaller one just now was a pigmented skin cancer, basal cell cancer, which is quite common. But sometimes you get folks thinking they're just a mole, but it's actually a cancer because it starts to get bleeding, painful, and ulcerate. But sometimes the general doctors, GPs, and the students don't understand, and we thought that it's good to get some background training for them through a learning app. So you can see that the problem in Singapore sometimes if healthcare structure is considered advanced, but there's always a gap between how long do you get to see a specialist from the time you get the lesion, you see a GP or a polyclinic doctor until you reach a specialist. So waiting time is very long for all specialties in Singapore, dermatology being one of them. So if there's a long waiting time to see a skin specialist, sometimes you create a lot of fear, anxiety for the patient and the family. So we want to reduce the gap of waiting time by increasing the awareness of conditions like this.
One of the things that you all may know if you all are from Singapore is that Singapore is one of the best healthcare systems all over the world. So the major hospitals in Singapore, SGH and UHS, have consistently ranked amongst the top 10 hospitals in the world. And the government spends a lot of time and effort to reach out and make sure that the healthcare is available to almost all members of society. Even then, if you look at the two graphs, in a general practitioner's clinic, waiting time can be measured in minutes, whereas the other graph talks about a specialty clinic where waiting time goes into days, sometimes 60, sometimes 90 days. And this is Singapore, where we have a smaller population and we have an excellent healthcare system. Imagine what's happening internationally in other geographies where this kind of infrastructure is not available.
So not to belittle the point, this is a very common headlines that you see in Singapore headlines for the past few years, especially during COVID time where there was a lockdown and a lot of patients get anxieties because they can't get access to the hospital so easily. After COVID has ended, things got a bit better, but we understand that with an aging population that is not going to change. This long waiting time is not going to change unless we do something to modify how the patient's access to skin care or any form of care can be expedited or more easily triageable. Because education is one key factor.
Okay. So let's hear from some of the patients about their experiences.
Yes. I had several of these scares in the last 6 or 7 years when a lot of change happened in my general health conditions. Started in 2005. I had issues with the skin. It started with a squamous cell carcinoma on the head. And then I have two basal cell carcinoma on the neck and on the nose bridge, the latest one.
Okay, the first time that after a biopsy, I was told that I had a melanoma was in my back, and I was super worried about it because it was the first time I had something like that. I was very worried what could be after that, if that was all or not. And it's true that my mom also had it, so I was familiar with it. But when it happens to you, it's another thing.
Because this was something which looked like repetition, or I have already a specialist for skin. So if anything happens in this area, I would rather go directly to the specialist, because the GP will ultimately also tell me, why don't you go and see a specialist?
But perhaps I know that the GP, what perhaps will say is like, I give you a referral to visit the specialist. So I prefer to don't do this step because I'm going directly to the specialist.
This is the kind of the fear factor, which I think many patients have. How long will I have to wait if I go for an appointment at the general hospital, for example?
First step, the GP, when they have any concern about that, and they have more elements that can give a quick answer to the problem or something, I think would be good. Because if not, you don't know where to go. You don't know if directly go to specialists, but which specialists are new, I don't know where to go. And I think GPs can help to these people, no?
So yes, I would like to thank my patients who've been looked after these few years for sharing their account. So in a nutshell, they have challenges looking for specialists when they need it, and they felt that maybe GPs are not equipped enough to manage them. But if you recall the ministry's headline last week, they mentioned that GPs are actually specialists now, because GPs actually spends the most time with patients in the primary care, and GPs also get quickest access to patients like this, and they also want to be upskilled in terms of getting knowledge so that actually what the patient wants can be immediately told to the patient straight away from the GP rather than waiting for months to see a specialist with a long waiting time. So that brings us to the basis of this learning app, so that we want to benefit everyone in this circle of healthcare. Of course, patients at the center of everything, they should get the quickest access with the shortest time and get assurance earlier rather than a long waiting time with anxiety. So the GP will be the first port of call because it's the easiest access for all these Singaporeans here. And then if there's any requests or anything that's more challenging that need to be triaged, then the specialist will come in earlier. So this whole gamification of learning app for education brings the specialist right to the GP, which will downstream bring benefits to the patient much earlier. If you can see in a simple way, it's just not very complex. It's design an app, and the GP use an extra tool like a dermoscope, which we'll show later, to magnify the lesion. Then we'll teach them how to recognize lesions through pattern recognition. So these are the important features that we want to measure, like good outcomes, early detection, time saving, and cost saving for patients. GPs get enhanced knowledge because they're going to be specialists too. They get trained in a supportive environment from the healthcare specialists in the specialist hospitals. And for hospitals like us, we also get decanting of unnecessary referrals, so we can focus on patients who need it more urgently through right sighting and reduce the healthcare costs in long run.
So this is the app that we built initially. It's typical enterprise social infrastructure where the app allowed general practitioners to share photographs and videos of the lesions that they were looking at with the community. And then what they were able to get was they were able to get feedback from their peers as well as from specialists on what could be happening. Plus, they had game-based learning exercises and simulated training to be able to get better at recognizing these lesions.
Yeah, so I have to thank Sid's company for designing the algorithm app for us healthcare doctors. So Throughout the whole learning process, we also have virtual sessions with the GPs. You can see this is like a typical Saturday afternoon where they are free from work. So they'll log in through this learning platform we call like a Billion group, where GPs will share, or students even, they can share what areas they are not familiar with, what cases they have come across last time they are not familiar with, and there are certain concepts of the game or the books that they read they are not very familiar with. So we just go through those more complex features in more details with them until they get the concept correct. And then, of course, through the same time, they also can bond with other fellow learners, because sometimes learning also needs a kind of budding environment where if you've learned alone, it can be a bit lonely through a computer. So through these platforms where they meet every quarterly, they actually can have a network session with other learners at the same time and also learn together and perhaps have a future relationship with others. Thank you.
So we're just going to look at what the app currently looks like.
So you see that through the quick video, the app is not really the traditional didactic where you go page 1, page 2, chapter 1, chapter 2, which is how we learn traditionally. But I think for young learners these days, they want something different. So through the app, you realize that first stop, you just play a game, okay? You imagine yourself in real life, you're sitting in a chair, the patient comes in, what are these? So you just play the game, and then you focus on the spot, and then you circle for the app, which is benign, which is not, and then you will get a feedback instantly, is this correct or not? And then we also have tools like algorithms to guide them, or PDFs or textbooks for them to read, so that to make the whole learning environment engaging and also attuned to the learners, in this case, who are doctors, who are, as you know, are very, very busy. They usually learn things either tea break, lunch break, or on the train home, or before they fall asleep. So you only have 20 minutes of their time. So every module is like a short few 10 minutes to learn something a little bit a day, better than nothing. And ultimately, you want to know whether it actually benefited them. So the only best way is to do like a pre and post assessment for them. And we find that we split two groups. One group learns our app version of learning dermoscopy, and another group learned the traditional lecture methods. And we find that the scores were fairly equivalent. Both groups learned just as well, be it you learn the traditional way of a textbook and a lecture, or through our app, which makes it our app valuable because it is available anytime at your convenience. We also presented these studies in educational meetings around the world, in Australia and in Paris this year, and we got quite good feedback about adopting this kind of learning model for their students, young residents, and GPs in their countries. So this is also in publication in a paper earlier this year.
So where does AI come in? AI plays many roles. So far, we've only talked about and micro-learning, gamified learning app platform with some elements of gamification, some elements of augmented reality. And I think that when we are talking about any kind of educational change, you need those scaffoldings to be able to move everyone together and have a holistic learning experience for these kinds of serious issues. But what you can do today with implementations through artificial intelligence, through machine learning, is actually start to develop data models that actually become predictive in nature as well. And so what we are doing now is we are actually using techniques for getting from the dermoscope when you take a picture to figuring out how it can be used to recommend certain kinds of specialists who you should be speaking to, or certain kind of learning resources. We are not ready to go yet all the way to treatment. We are not ready to go yet to diagnosis or prognosis based on the app. But what we are trying to do is to augment or give confidence to the general practitioner to find out more about the particular thing that they are looking at. And of course, if it's benign, then it becomes easier for them to also deal with it locally without having to spend or send the user to, or the patient to a specialist later. So the main modification, as you can see, is actually today implementation of Gen AI, I think, or any kind of machine learning model becomes easier. I showed you the system diagram earlier of the app. And the main thing that we've done now is that we're working with GCP. And what we are doing is we're using the Vertex sandbox. And within the Vertex sandbox, there are many models that you can use. You can actually implement image recognition. You can implement Diagflow, which allows us to take any kind of documentation or data and actually very quickly convert that into natural language or conversational interactions without much effort. And so what we are able to do is we are able to augment our current application structure very easily with an AI stack that gives much better results in terms of the learning resources as well as the speed of diagnosis to the doctors. So yeah, what are we looking at now? We are currently starting to work with other hospital clusters. We've started inviting other hospital clusters to come on board and join our community. The aim is to start moving beyond Singapore. The main strength of this application is that skin conditions are quite similar. The human body is the same all over the world. And so what we can do is we can actually go to various different locations and provide this interconnection between general practitioners as well as specialists. Also, what it will also do is that over time, currently, a lot of the image recognition data that is getting used to train is based on European and Western countries, and so has to do with a lot of Caucasian people. But now we also want to expand that. We want to expand the data set to more to Asians, to Indians, South Asians, to Africans, and so that we have all different types of skin type, and we can actually start looking at a lot of different types of complex skin conditions. And of course, the big aim is that this idea of connecting general practitioners with specialists does not need to be limited only to dermatology, because whether it's neuroscience, whether it's any other kinds of cancers, oncology, endocrinology, or any other discipline, there is a chance for general practitioners to be the first line to answer the patient's concerns and their worries. So yeah, so we are open for research collaboration as well as partnerships, and we're very excited about the next phase of our development journey. And thank you. I think just 33 seconds to go.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank Steed's company for helping us realize this dream, because it's not easy for healthcare physicians to design an app like this and bring it up to roll to the wider community. So thank you very much, and for anyone who's interested for educational healthcare, do reach out to Sid after the session. So thank you once again.
Thank you.